Security walked my wife out of her office at 10:15 on a Tuesday morning. 2 guards, 1 cardboard box, our wedding picture sitting on top. An hour later, her boss went out the same door carrying his own box. I made both of those things happen, on purpose, with 1 folder. Her whole family says that makes me the villain. I will tell you exactly what I did. You can decide. I am 44. I fix elevators for a living, 19 years in the trade. My wife and I were married 14 years. 1 son, 9 years old, plays second base, sleeps with his glove. She worked as a claims adjuster at an insurance company, 6 years in the same office, and she was good at it. She could look at a soaked ceiling and put a number on it before the homeowner finished talking. 18 months ago, the company brought in a new regional manager to run her department. She got a promotion out of it, senior adjuster. A little more money, a lot more nights where dinner sat covered in foil on the stove. I want to be fair here. I never went through her phone. In 14 years, she never gave me a reason to. The first thing was a voicemail, and I was not even snooping. It was a Friday night in September, about 9:40. She was upstairs drying her hair. Her phone was charging on the console table by the front door, and it went off twice while she was up there. She came down, saw the missed call, and played the voicemail on speaker. She always did that when her hands were busy, and they were digging through her work bag for a pen. A man's voice, her boss. I knew his voice from the summer picnic. He said, "Hey, it is me. Call me about the water damage files when you get a chance." Then a pause. Then, "Also, you left your sunglasses in my car." Again. And he laughed, and the message ended. She never wrote anything down. Again. Here is the part that makes me look bad. I explained it away in about 4 seconds. Her car had been in the shop for a week back in March. People from her office carpooled to the regional building all the time. That word, again, I set it down somewhere in the back of my head, and I went and watched the end of the ball game. My wife did not marry a suspicious man. October came, and she flew out to a claims conference. 3 days, she said. The company posts those things on its public page, schedules and all. I was not checking on her. My son had a school form that needed her insurance card, and I went looking on the company site for the right phone number, and there was the conference page, and the conference ended on a Thursday. She came home Saturday afternoon. She said the closing dinner ran long, and half the team stayed over. She brought our son a shot glass with a cactus on it, which is a strange gift for a 9-year-old. I told myself, adjuster's network. That is the job. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 2 extra nights. I let it go, and I should not have. November is when it stopped being something I could set down. She asked me to grab her laptop bag from her back seat. She was on a call, and our son's dentist form still needed that card, so I checked the side pocket of the bag standing in the driveway. No insurance card. What was in the side pocket was a printed expense report, folded in thirds, with the company logo across the top. I was not looking for it, but I looked at it. I looked at every line. I am the guy who reads the phone bill top to bottom. Most of it was what you would expect. Mileage, a windshield claim. Then one line halfway down, site meal claims review, $118.40. The timestamp on the receipt said 11:52 at night. I have eaten a lot of work dinners in 19 years, never one at 11:52 at night, and never one that cost $118 with nobody's name next to mine on the ticket. That is 2 people. That is drinks. And the site it was attached to was a water damage claim 40 minutes from her office, which means the meal happened an hour past the last minute anyone could pretend to be working. I put the report back in the side pocket, folded the same way, and I carried her bag inside, and I said thank you when she said thank you, and I did not sleep. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Ask her, Just ask her. Here is why I did not. My wife is a claims adjuster. Her whole job is listening to somebody describe damage and deciding how much of the story is real. She is better at questions than I will ever be. If I came at her with a voicemail and a dinner receipt, I would get an answer smooth enough to make me feel crazy, and I would never get another straight look at anything. I had watched her do it to insurance customers on the phone for 6 years. Polite, warm even, airtight. So no, I did not ask her. I decided to find out what was true before she found out I was asking. The last piece, the one that settled it, was the fall festival. Our son's school does it every year, second weekend of November. He was running the ring toss booth from 6 to 7, and he had talked about it for 2 weeks straight. She missed it. Catastrophe file review, she said. Regional office all weekend, clearing the storm backlog. She said the word catastrophe with a straight face and drove away Saturday morning with a garment bag. A garment bag for a file review. He ran the ring toss booth. I took a dozen videos on my phone like an idiot. One handful of caramel apple, and he looked for her twice, and I watched him decide not to ask where she was. 9 years old, and he did the same thing I had been doing since September. He explained it away. 3 days later, the company's quarterly newsletter came to the house. Paper. They mail it to families. Front page, second paragraph. The claims division had cleared its storm backlog a full week early. Best numbers in the region. Cleared early. There was no backlog left to review that weekend. Her own company put it in writing and mailed it to my house. I stood out in the garage holding that newsletter for a long time. 2 mornings later, I called a licensed private investigator. Let me be clear about one thing, because it matters for what came later. I did not hire a guy to take pictures through hotel windows. The man I hired spent most of his career investigating insurance fraud, which I did not plan, but it turned out to be exactly the right man for this. He asked me what I wanted. I told him I already knew what my eyes needed to know. I told him to follow the money instead. Dates, receipts, mileage, who booked what, and whose card paid for it, and I could hand him a head start. My wife is old school about paperwork. She prints a copy of everything she files, receipts stapled to the back, all of it in a file box on the closet shelf. Over the next 3 weeks, I photographed every page of her copies with my phone and gave him all of it. His job was not to take anything from anybody. It was to check her paper against the real world, the dates, the mileage math, the parking lot. And before anybody asks, I never touched her company's systems, her credit cards, or her bank accounts, and neither did the investigator. Every page came out of a box in my own house that she filed herself. He said, "Whose card do you think is paying for it?" And I told him that was exactly the question. 5 weeks, $2,800 of my own money, out of my own tool fund. It was the best money I ever spent, and her family will call it the worst thing I ever did. The report came back in December in a plain envelope I opened in the cab of my work van because I could not open it in my own house. 9 hotel stays in 5 months. Same hotel out by the airport. 7 dates that matched to the day. Her late reviews and site inspections. Room receipts, timestamps. Her car and his in the same corner of the lot in 4 photographs taken from a public sidewalk. The date and time burned into each frame. But here is the part that changed what kind of story this is. 7 of those 9 stays were billed to the company. All of it right there in her own copies. Site inspection, lodging, claims, travel. The 11:52 dinner was one of a dozen. Mileage reimbursements for trips that started at her office and ended at that hotel. 40 minutes in the wrong direction from any claim she was working. My investigator put a calculator to it. $7,940 of company money over 5 months. Rooms, late dinners, per diems, and mileage that never happened. And the man approving every single one of those expense reports, the direct supervisor whose signature sat at the bottom of every page, was the man in the other car. Her boss was approving the bills for his own affair. The company was paying for their rooms and did not know it. The last page of the report was the one I had to put down and pick back up twice. The festival weekend, the garment bag weekend, room 214, checked in Saturday at 1 in the afternoon, checked out Sunday morning. While our son ran the ring toss booth and scanned the crowd for her twice, I did not yell. I did not drive to the hotel. I coached myself through 3 weeks of acting normal. Not healthy, I know, because of what I had already scheduled for January. Here is where you get to start judging me, because everything after this, I did on purpose. I took the report to a divorce lawyer the first week of January. Our state is one of the last states in the country where cheating still costs you something, and I did not know the half of it until that meeting. 2 things she told me, and both of them are about to matter. 1, in our state, adultery is still legal grounds for divorce, not code for irreconcilable differences. Adultery, spelled out on the paperwork. 2, when a judge in our state decides alimony, the judge is allowed to consider fault. And the first thing the law counts as fault is sleeping with somebody who is not your spouse if it wrecked the marriage. It does not shift custody or hand you the house, but support money for the person who burned it down. The judge can look at that with the receipts on the table. Then my lawyer said the thing her family still throws in my face. She tapped the expense pages and said, "You understand this part is not really about your marriage. This part is fraud against her employer. What you do with it is up to you." I sat with that for 4 days. I will be straight with you about why I did it, because this is the whole reason I am telling this story. I did not send that folder to her company to save the company money. I do not care about an insurance company's travel budget. I sent it because of a math problem I could not get out of my head. Every room they met in was free, and every dinner too. She got to wreck this marriage for free. Her company paid for it, and the man she was meeting signed off on it. The only one in this whole story paying full price out of his own pocket was me. The ring toss weekend was room 214, and the company paid for the room, and she got promoted that same year. So, in the first week of January, I mailed copies of her own filed paperwork. Just the money pages, the expenses, the mileage, the approvals, none of the parking lot photographs, to the company's ethics line with a 1-page letter. I did not sign it with my name. I signed it as what I was, a policyholder and the husband of an employee. 9 days later, on a Tuesday morning, a friend of hers from the office texted me. They just walked her out, 10:15. I took the rest of the day off, and I set my copy of the folder on the dining room table. The rest of it, the 2 guards, the box, her boss going out the same door an hour later, came to me in pieces from her and from the lawsuit. It turns out companies do not take long to check math when you hand them the page numbers. An hour after that, her boss went out the same door. They did not walk him out for the affair. On its own, the affair would have been an HR file and a transfer. He was fired for approving nearly $8,000 of his own conflict of interest. The company kept it quiet, took a repayment agreement, and did not press charges. They were kinder to her than I was ever going to be. She came home at noon with the box and the picture frame, and she looked at me, and I watched her go into adjuster mode, 6 years of it, hunting for the story that fit the damage. Then she stopped. There was one thing on our dining room table, the folder, my copy, open to room 214. Her first words were, "You got me fired." Nothing about being sorry, nothing about it being over, or it meaning nothing. None of the speeches I had braced for. "You got me fired." 14 years, and that was the first sentence out of her. That told me where I stood. I filed for divorce 2 days later. On grounds. The real word, printed on the filing. Nobody made her leave the house. She packed the bag herself the night the papers landed. She moved into an extended stay motel by the interstate because staying near her mother would have meant questions. Her family called me twice a week for a while. Her sister's version is the one that stuck. I did not just leave, I salted the ground. Her exact words. She said a decent man walks away and lets the woman keep her severance and her dignity. She said our son will someday find out his father got his mother fired. Then in March, my wife handed my lawyer a gift. The extended stay was bleeding her savings. He had a condo and no more marriage of his own to hide. His wife had filed 2 weeks after word of the walkout got around his church. So my wife moved in with him, with the man from room 214, while asking a judge to make me pay her bills. Maybe he will. Our son will also someday find out where she was during the ring toss, and I did not invent either one of those facts. I just wrote one of them down and mailed it. In court, the receipts did the talking. She asked for alimony. She was unemployed after all, and her lawyer leaned on that hard. Her lawyer said the word retaliation in his opening and looked at me while he said it. My lawyer answered twice. First with the folder, because a judge in our state is allowed to consider who wrecked the marriage, and the evidence was not a feeling or a friend's testimony. It was her own signatures on falsified mileage, next to hotel dates, approved by the man she was meeting in the rooms. Then my lawyer stood up with one more piece of paper, and this is the part I did not know until it happened. In our state, there is a rule about alimony, and it is not a suggestion. If the person asking for support moves in with a lover, while the case is still open, the judge is not allowed to award them alimony, not frowned on, not a judgment call, not allowed. She had moved into his condo in March. The alimony question died right there in about 90 seconds, and her lawyer never even stood up. She kept her retirement account and her car. I kept mine, bought her out of the house at the appraised number, and custody landed where custody should land. Half and half, because whatever she is as a wife, she never missed a dentist appointment. I said I would be fair. That is me being fair. And then there is the part almost nobody knows you can still do. And my lawyer only brought it up because of what state we live in. In a handful of states, ours is one. A betrayed husband can still sue the other man, not the company, the man himself. It is an old law. Most states buried it decades ago, and honestly, ours just voted to bury it too. The law dies for good next spring. My lawyer said almost nobody files these anymore, a few in 10 years, and the verdicts are not lottery money. Then she asked whether the marriage was good before he showed up. 14 years, one son, and I had the answer and the photo albums to prove it. So I filed one of the last of those lawsuits our state will ever see. Her boss had spent that winter telling people at his church that he had been let go over a paperwork dispute. A paperwork dispute. The lawsuit has his name on the front page and the word for what he actually did printed right under it. And it is a public record now in the county where his kids go to school. His lawyer called mine before the month was out. It settled before summer. There is a number, and I am not allowed to say it, and that is fine, because I did not file it for the number. I filed it because he approved room 214 with a signature, like it was a business expense. I wanted one piece of paper with his name on it that told the truth. Now there is one. So here is where everybody in my life splits into two camps, and you get to pick yours. Her family says I am the villain, not because of the divorce. They concede the divorce because of the folder, because I did not have to send it, because she is 41 years old, starting over as a service advisor at a car dealership, and her career in insurance is finished, and the man she gave 14 years to is the one who finished it. My side of it is shorter. I did not book the rooms. I did not sign the reports. I did not choose the ring toss weekend. She spent 5 months building a paper trail with both hands, and all I ever did was put it in front of the right people. She got herself fired in September, October, November, and December. The mail just came in January. My son is 10 now. He still plays second base. Last month, the school closed out its spring festival with a kids' game on the ball field, and both of his parents stood at the fence and watched him, one of us on each side of the third base line, and he waved at us both, and that is where this story actually ends, not in a courtroom, at a fence with a kid who waves at two people who cannot stand next to each other because one of them wanted a free hotel room and the other one added up what it cost. So I got my cheating wife fired on purpose with a folder. Am I the asshole? See you in the next one.